Hello, this is National Chess Master Rats. I'm here starting a new video series on a correspondence team match played between my video lessons group and the team LullabyVisca. It's a 97 board match. Currently, the score is 60 for Lullaby and 54 for my team. There were 7 boards that they chose to forfeit by removing them before the match started. So they should have played them. Give up 14 points, but they still have a lead, and hopefully we can vindicate ourselves. And I promised a video for anyone that wins a game or get a point and a half. I'll give a win in the draw, or 2 wins, you get 2 videos. Win and a loss, you get a video if you win. That's the deal I made, and I also said if your game is over quickly, it'll mean the video is going to be a little short. And this was the first one turned in. And this player had already lost his first game. I didn't look at that to see what he went wrong, but if you want to improve ace club, and it's our man here, check that, find out what you did wrong, and slow down and analyze a little more, because correspondence chess is where you're supposed to take your time and look things up. Now, not much happens here out of the opening. It's a very sterile position. Both sides are maneuvering quietly. Here we have something similar to a Queen's Indian defense, although White has delayed d4, but this is coming. Okay. Don't really know what you want to call this. English opening, symmetrical. But it's can transpose into a lot of the ideas of some of these openings, like the Queen's Indian. And here we have a very symmetrical type position. If Black plays knight c6 and Black does, the positions match. So how can White lose this in another dozen moves? Okay, well, White's going to make some mistakes. We'll see when we get there. A good general rule is you don't want to play a symmetrical position. There comes a time when you can't copy what your opponent has done. Okay, so I think White played a move that Black probably wouldn't want to copy. Logical here is just to play d4. And who knows, maybe Black will play d5, and creating a lot of tension in the center. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. Actually, let's just go ahead and do it now. What White played was Queen b1, but we're going to come back to that move. Let's look at d4. Okay, if Black plays d5, you have this tension in the center. Okay, both sides can make pawn captures. And it has there's several interesting ways this can go. Let's look at them. Okay, for instance, these moves aren't forced, but Black could be taking the pieces. Okay, and here you probably want to stop and get rid of this so you don't get an isolated pawn, and then take back here. And with the absence of the D and C pawns, the position becomes very, very drawish. Okay. Now let's see. Now that's if White exchanges first, and the same thing can happen if Black initiates the exchange. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. Now stop and take here, and again we have something very similar. It's going to be very drawish. Let's go back to what actually happened, or come back to the key point. But I think d4 was the better move. But this is not an ambitious setup for White. So White seeks to upset the apple cart and gets himself in trouble here in a few moves. We'll see how what White does. White plays the peculiar move Queen to b1. That's not a move most of us would play. It's taking the queen off to the side of the board. A more natural move, aside from d4, would be something along the lines of rook c1. Okay, that's what I would logically think that White might do. But Queen b1, we'll see the point of this in a few moves. Okay, so now Black comes in and takes. Now, there's one thing I didn't discuss, and that was the possibility to take back with the pawn. Okay, now this can lead to a hanging pawn position. We'll get to that in a moment, and it was something that could have happened with colors reversed. And here we have it. Okay, rook c8. Now, should White decide to take, and there's no rule making him take, but we get one of these classic positions with the hanging pawns. Now, it's an interesting strategic imbalance of pawn structure. The pawns can be strong. Well, let's look at what they're doing right now. Right now, those pawns are controlling a lot of squares. White can't safely move to piece to any of those. If you have the hanging pawns, what you want to try to get in at some key point is to play be able to play d4. They call that a tactical advance of the pawns. It unleashes the potential of this fianchettoed bishop. A game I refer people to a lot is from the World Championship match in 1981, also known as the Massacre in Murano. It was in Italy. Victor Korchnoi had white against Karpov, and Karpov had picked up the bishop pair by taking a bishop on this square with his pawn. And then Karpov just sat there with rock solid position and started improving it slowly. And Korchnoi made a slip, and Karpov got a tactical push d4 in, and Korchnoi's game just disintegrated rapidly. The alternative is to take back with the bishop and play with an isolated pawn. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. You get nice control of the square e4. You already have a rook on this open file. You get a rook to this file with some pressure. The isolated pawn can be a plus if you have a lot of pieces on the board. And as the pieces start getting exchanged, it becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. So if black does take the hanging pawns, white's going to try to provoke one of those to advance. Preferably so this bishop doesn't get active, or maybe advance one of his own pawns and try for an e4, b4 move if possible, trying to encourage an exchange so that black is left with an isolated pawn. Anyway, that's easier said than done. But what happens is white doesn't take on c5. We see now the point of queen b1. White throws his queen into the center of the board. What's white trying to do? Well, doesn't look like that white's going to muster up a mating attack with this move. This bishop could still come into play, okay, if there's a pawn exchange. But right now, h7 is well secure, but it won't be. Well, in a moment, we'll see what I mean. This bishop could get on this diagonal, but for now there's a knight there. This knight's not going to have much of effect getting over to the king side, but then again he will. We'll see in just a couple of moves. So black elects to send the queen back, scurrying back to where she came. And I think that was white's best choice, was to just simply put the queen even on c2. And if you get tempoed, so what? Just put the queen on d2, and where's this knight going? It's not going anywhere except for back here eventually, okay? I think white's best choice was to come back, but white plays for the double-edged queen h3, hoping to generate some kingside attacks, and we'll see those in just a moment. But now we reach a position where both sides get an isolated pawn, and black just slowly starts improving his position, and now we're reaching some of the points of what white is trying to accomplish here. White's looking for positions where he can take on this square safely. And even though you say, well, it's guarded by the knight, well, you can't take back with the knight because of the mate threat. But white is trying to get that in. And I think maybe black reacted a little prematurely here. Maybe a safer move was king h7. But he ends up weakening his pawn structure a little further. So maybe, just maybe, this attack could go somewhere. Now, if g4, trying to open up everything, this bishop can probably safely come back to c8, and maybe the white attack is coming to a halt. But now the bishop comes to f3, and we see that white's trying to bust open the black king side in any way, shape, or form he can. Put more pressure on d5, but this is a mistake that's going to cost white the game. We'll see here in just a moment, because this queen is running out of squares to go to. Okay, so bishop c8 attacks the queen, and it gets attacked again, and now white steps into a pin, and this piece is twice attacked by the knight and by the queen, and white's going to drop material. So White has one way to defend that piece, but it's not going to help because black has a fine resource here, and he puts an attack on this knight right here. So you see now black is threatening to play rook takes c3. So if the bishop goes to d2 to protect it, the bishop becomes overworked. It's covering both c3 and g5, and black could at least just play rook takes c3. So white takes the bait and grabs this pawn, and now black just parts with the exchange, rook takes. And after this move, after recapture, black just picks up this knight, and black has two pieces for the rook. Now white does have a pawn for it, but this is simply not enough. White chose to resign here. The game ends here. But as I tell students, the two pieces, even if your opponent has a pawn for it, in which case white does, this is just a losing proposition here. Well, black does have some serious threats. The threat is knight takes f3, discovered check, picking up the queen. How does white save his queen? But that notwithstanding, the logic of winning this game is that with two pieces, even though each piece is inferior to a rook, the two of them together are superior to a rook. And the basic winning strategy is like this. You have an extra piece. Let's count them up. Okay, white has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, black has an extra piece, even though, again, the knight's not worth as much as the rook. The bishop and knight are. Well, eventually what's going to happen with that extra piece is black is going to win a pawn, then he's going to win another pawn. He's probably going to win this pawn on d4. Then he'll probably end up winning this pawn on a2. And then eventually black will be able to create a pass pawn. That pawn will march up the board. And with the extra piece, white just won't have enough attackers on it. And it will just keep advancing. And eventually white's going to have to give up some material to stop it from becoming a queen. And then black will convert his advantage at least a piece ahead. Okay, so that's the basic winning strategy. But just looking at this, it looks like this is pretty hopeless for white. I guess he has to play king h1 here, but after knight takes f3, well, this knight is loose too. Knight takes, queen takes, rook takes. Okay, maybe I'm doing this wrong, but I really don't think I am. I think that black has a decisive advantage. These two bishops are just too strong. The king needs to come up. And let's see. Do you want to take this pawn? It's not going anywhere. There's no hurry for it. Just stop and park your rook on d7. Win this pawn 15, 20 moves from now. There's no need to let white get some counterplay by sending a rook down to the 7th rank. So, just rook d7, and black is going to win this very easily. And there may be other ways to do it. So let's just do a quick rundown on this when he resigned. Okay. Of course, after king h1, black could take here, but the bishop's on the board. Okay, let's see. Bishop takes. So I'll stick with there may be better, but after king h1, it just seems forced because the queen doesn't have a safe square to go to, and if the bishop moves, black's going to play knight f3 check anyway and pick up this queen, and g3 guards the queen but unprotects the bishop, and then black wins the piece, and then the queen next move. So king h1, knight takes. Now we're tempoing the queen, so this queen needs to capture here. This is what we just looked at, and now this knight is loose, so he needs to take here. But I don't know, maybe black doesn't have to take this. Maybe black could just play knight d2. Yeah, this seems to do it. If rook d1, the bishop captures here, and black has 3 pieces for the rook. Anyway, interesting game for as short as it was. It's a slow system, and White didn't. White basically tried to extract too much out of what he had. It was a pretty level game, and didn't follow one of the strategies that I give. Try to see if Black will take the hanging pawns and play against them, and see what happens. Well, thanks so much for your time. The links to the team match and links to find the other videos, playlist, and so forth will be posted here on YouTube. You just scroll down in the description and you'll find them. Again, thanks so much for your time. Appreciate being here. Take care.